Hello, I'm Frank Torley. It's now widely accepted that no tillage is the most sustainable way to grow the world's food. But how do we make no tillage sustainable in farmers' hands? All too often, farmers' crops end like this, even though they use machines from reputable manufacturers. But it doesn't have to be like this. 40 years ago, a team of scientists at New Zealand's Massey University began to research the reasons for no-tillage crop failures. The team leader, Dr. John Baker, explained.
Failed crops had been occurring since no-tillage was first tried. No matter how good it is for the environment, it was obvious that farmers would never adopt it willingly unless it could be made at least as fail-safe as conventional cultivation. We asked ourselves what the seeds really need in untilled soils. Do untilled soils behave the same as cultivated soils, or do they have different properties? We found they were quite different. Although we knew that all soils have air spaces between the particles, we did not know that this soil air is always at 100% relative humidity, even when the soil is very dry. In fact, it is 99.8% at wilting point, which is when the soil is so dry that the plants wilt and die. We also learnt that most seeds can germinate without any soil contact at all, so long as they remain surrounded by high humidity air. When soils are cultivated, much of the soil humidity escapes into the atmosphere. Seeds then rely on liquid water alone for germination, which comes from rainfall or irrigation. This means that cultivated soils need good soil-to-seed contact. Farmers have learnt to adapt to this for centuries. Most no-tillage openers either disturb the slot too much or often leave it open. Either way, it doesn't trap the soil humidity, even though the soil in between the slots remains undisturbed. So we figured that if we could design an opener that self-closed the slot and trapped the moisture vapour, then the seeds would get the benefit of both vapour moisture and liquid moisture. And that's exactly what we designed cross-slot openers to do. Cross-slot openers make horizontal slots, shaped like an inverted T. Humidity is trapped in the seed zone beneath a mulch of crop residue. Both the soil and this residue are then folded back over the slot. This cocoons the seed and seedlings in a humid microenvironment that also has good soil-to-seed contact. They therefore get the best of both worlds. The end result is the highest possible reliability of seedling emergence from dry soils, and horizontal slots are unique to cross-slot. What's more, the same benefits occur in wet soils, but for entirely different reasons. In this case, horizontal slots place residue where earthworms and other soil fauna can find them. Their burrows aerate the soil around the seed and provide drainage channels.
Yeah, we sow a lot of small seeds, and in various conditions, from very soft soils to some very stony, bouldery type riverbed conditions, and the machine's ability to maintain its depth control in these conditions is fabulous. Our customers regularly comment on the emergence that the cross-slot provides, the evenness across the fields, particularly with peas into pastoral or ex-pastoral conditions. Brassicas do come up very evenly, and is noticeable. You can basically pick out the crops that have been cross-slotted in the district.
Nature's not silly. It's no accident that seeds ripen and fall from the plant before the residue covers them. The residue contains moisture, but it also breathes. Cross-slot openers put seeds where nature intended, under that residue. On the other hand, cultivation does everything unnatural by burying the residues first, or removing them altogether by baling, burning, or feeding to livestock. Nor does burying crop residue by cultivation improve soil organic matter, as many people believe. The act of cultivation releases more carbon into the atmosphere than is gained from the residue being buried. The net result is that the organic matter in the soil gradually reduces until such time as the soil is virtually carbon-free. Then it becomes like so much dust in the wind.
You're on a farm in Canterbury here that is exposed to very, very strong nor'westers at certain times. Having soil exposed, this is where you lose moisture and also lose soil. We have had minimal wind blow on this farm in the last 15 years compared to the cultivated farms around me.
Much of the rest of the world has reverted to minimum tillage and high disturbance no tillage. Reliable low disturbance no tillage has been too difficult to achieve. But both of these halfway practices disturb the soil and crop residues too much to be considered true no tillage. The whole purpose of no tillage is to keep residues on the surface. Not only are they capable of virtually guaranteeing germination when cross-slot openers are used, they are also nature's way of preventing soil erosion.
We have neighbors that are conventional farming around here, and I'm not begrudging anybody that, however they have to farm. But it's really interesting to watch the soil and water wash out of their fields and wash into ours about 20 feet.
14 years ago, John Baker and his team took the cross-slot technology out of the university and then began marketing it commercially, both to farmers and contractors worldwide.
Realistically, horizontal slots can only be created with tines or shanks that have horizontal wings. The problem was how to get a tined opener to handle residues without blocking. Most other designers reverted to super wide rows to avoid the problem, but we wanted to be able to continue to drill in narrow rows because, if anything, plant populations can be increased under no tillage because of the improved moisture status of the soil. We were not prepared to make biological compromises to solve engineering problems, no matter how complicated they were. So, we created an entirely new operating system, which is still the cornerstone of our patented cross-slot opener today. We split the tine down the centre, allowing us the space to insert a disc where our blades contact either side of the flat disc surface. This gave us the ability to handle very heavy residue levels while retaining the horizontal slot. Most importantly, this action leaves more than 90% of the residue undisturbed, even at high forward speeds. Although cross-slot openers handle large amounts of surface residues, they do not have the same problems with hairpinning or tucking of residues into the slot that other openers have. This is because cross-slot openers place the seeds to one side of any hairpins that are formed rather than in them, nor is there any compaction or sidewall smearing with cross-slot openers.
With the system we're in, with such a low disturbance and all the microorganisms and the worms are just taking over, and we don't have too much residue to the point where we have one combine with a straw chopper, no chaff spreader. We have one combine with a chaff spreader, no straw chopper, and we have one combine with a straw chopper and chaff spreader, and we can't tell the difference of what combine went where by having too much residue on the ground. None of the other machines come close to achieving what we're trying to achieve by not knocking that stubble down. The residue has become a real asset to us, and one of the things that were said by several people when we started this is our residue load is going to get so heavy that we won't be able to handle it after a few years. But the microorganisms and the worms have come in and taken this ground and just brought it all to life.
One problem we do have, and it's a nice frustration, is all the neighbors are out harvesting right now. Our crops have more moisture, they're still green. It takes us longer. And it's hard to sit in the barnyard and the neighbors are going up and down the road.
During the last 5 seasons, we've been surveying the countryside in the Palouse region of eastern Washington and northern Idaho to determine what crops are being planted, how much crop residue is left after planting, and how much erosion is occurring in farmers' fields. And we have found during those seasons that there is one system that consistently has over 70 to 80% crop residue on the soil surface, and that is the cross-slot no-till system.
The next problem was to find a way of sowing fertiliser in a separate band to the seed. This is one of the most important functions that a no-till opener must perform. Soil microbes use nitrogen in breaking down surface residues. But broadcasting the fertiliser on the surface means the nutrients take too long to get to the newly establishing seedlings, and we risk runoff polluting waterways. Horizontal slots make the task simple and foolproof. The seed and the fertiliser are placed either side of the central disc. Extensive research shows there is no better way to separate bands of seed and fertiliser than horizontally. But for those who believe that some vertical separation is helpful, we can achieve that too by using different length blades on either side of the disc. And this is effective in any soil, any residue, at any reasonable speed.
I think it's very critical. We can put high volumes of nitrogenous fertilisers down there and no fear of scalding the plants. We've actually put capital doses of complete fertilisers, NP and K, down there. The farmer that introduced me to cross-lots, a couple of occasions we put 350 kilos of, I think the mixture was about 10 of N, 20 of P and 25 of K. Well, if you tried to do that with any other machine, you'd completely eliminate germination.
One problem that's common to both cultivation and no-tillage is maintaining a constant seed depth. But no-tillage doesn't get the opportunity to smooth the ground. Therefore, no-tillage openers must have an extraordinary ability to follow the ground surface. Nothing matches cross-slot in that regard. We developed 2 separate but complementary electrohydraulic systems that work in harmony. Together they provide the most sophisticated seeding depth control system ever developed. We used individual hydraulic cylinders to push the openers down because these maintain the same downforce throughout their entire stroke length. Then we mounted the openers on parallelogram linkages so that all angles remained constant. And we gave the openers a pair of adjustable press wheels for positive location on the soil surface. Finally, we gave the system about 40 centimetres or 16 inches of vertical travel, knowing that the downforce would remain constant throughout the stroke length. This is about twice as much as any other opener.
Well, that took care of surface humps and hollows, but soil hardness often varies in untilled soil, regardless of surface smoothness. Tillage evens that out. No tillage doesn't. So that makes seeding depth control for no tillage even more demanding. So we invented an electronic system called ADF. It continuously measures soil hardness as the openers travel along and adjusts the downforce on each opener to match. It samples 10 times per second and adjusts 3 times per second. Without ADF, depth of seeding is affected by changes in soil hardness. With ADF, the system compensates, ensuring that seeds remain at a constant depth regardless of changes in soil hardness. This way, the operator knows that the openers will always be pushed into the ground with just the right amount of downforce, while faithfully following every hump and hollow. This is the most sophisticated seeding depth control system in existence.
On our place here we have a variety of soils and soil profiles to deal with. They just vary so much even in one block, even on one field we may end up with there's so many different challenges that the drill has to cope with, and it may be humps, hollows, wet, dry, clay, soil, hard, soft. There could be all sorts of vehicle tracks, compaction, that sort of thing. So the drill's got to be able to cope with them instantly in a one-pass system. And the Crosslot is just magnificent at doing that because of its ability, the ability to control depth and pressure on the go.
Having all these biological functions was one thing, but engineering excellence is equally as important. With Crosslot, we consider performance and durability to be more important than targeting the lowest possible price. We figured if a farmer was going to become reliant on one tractor and one seed drill, then the seed drill needed to last just as long as the tractor. There is even an internal safety rail on every opener to stop the disc from falling during maintenance.
The wearing parts on this drill are essentially just the discs and blades, and these are very easy to replace and adjust. It takes very little time in the field to do this with very few tools.
Yeah, the only pieces that we've ever replaced since we've owned these, and we've been running them for 11 years, is the actual wear components. We've never broke anything. When I first came home to farm, we were full-blown conventional, and you were in the shop 6 days a week from 8, a short day was 8 in the morning until 5 at night, and we worked on equipment to get it ready for the next year. And when we got full-blown into this no-till situation, we bring both the drills into the shop in the fall of the year and we finish seeding, and we tear them completely down. When I say tear them down, we pull the discs out and the blades out and just inspect the parts. That way we know what we got to order. But it's basically 2 days per drill, and if we got crazy, we could probably do it in a day per drill.
Existing owners already know the benefits of Crosslot, so it's no surprise that the US Department of Agriculture's Soil Conservation Ranking System has Crosslot right at the top, and it's won numerous international design, yield and environmental awards, plus 14 years and millions of hectares of testing in 15 countries. The technology is the result of 30 years of peer-reviewed biological and engineering research. Surveys of Crosslot owners tell us that the machines are 95 to 99% fail-safe. The machines have a 10 to 20 year design life. Key features are patented and not available elsewhere.
When you run a no-tillage system, we've got to be very aware that we only get one chance at it. It's being a single-pass system, the only pass that we do is the one that counts. So we've got to get it right first time.
Most importantly, there is no loss of crop yield even in the first year. Thereafter, crop yield should gradually increase, often to levels never before experienced.
Since we've gone to no tillage, we've had independent irrigation experts come in here, and on average this property over the season, by not cultivating it and allowing the soil to be exposed to the nor'westers, we're saving an average of between 40 and 60 millimetres of water per year. We've gone from averaging 4 to 5 tonne of sort of feed grains up to the around 11.5 to 12 tonne mark on these light Lismores, and so we're getting close to some of the best Wakanui's yields in New Zealand. Our ryegrass yields are similar, from 1,200 kilograms a hectare to 2,200 to 2,000, and we've had yields up to 3,300 kilograms a hectare.
I think that we've got it figured out. It's around 60 to 70 cents an acre to keep that thing in the field. My brother's pretty much the money man, so he'd know that better. But it's very compared to the conventional system that we used to be in, it's nothing to compare to. Fuel use is, we're down to about 1 gallon an acre is what we figure with the drills. This combine I'm leaning against burns more fuel in the course of a day than I do seeding, and cuts about the same amount of acres. So we figure these are about 1.5 gallons per acre, and versus 1 gallon per acre with the drills, putting the seed in the ground.
Functions that affect crop yield become standard on our machines with no compromises. Most soil components are self-adjusting for wear. Crosslot uses triple sealed bearings that need only infrequent attention. It has a very wide tolerance of varying soil and residue conditions. Crosslot machines can operate successfully at up to 16 kilometres an hour or 10 miles per hour. For the first time, small, depth-sensitive seeds can be no-tilled with confidence. Seedling emergence is all but guaranteed, even in dry and wet soils.
You know, on a typical day in the autumn, we might go from sowing into sod conditions that have been sprayed out with glyphosate to a green feed maize conditions where there's long stalks on very firm ground, to undulating sandy country, and you just go from one thing to the other and virtually not have to change anything. And you know, you sort of get to the point where you wonder why everybody hasn't got one of these things.
Crosslot is virtually unblockable by surface residues. Crosslot openers separate seed and fertiliser into 2 horizontal bands with a single opening. Seeding depth is unaffected by surface roughness or surface hardness. Crosslot openers are available on complete drills from 2 metres to 12 metres in width, toolbar frames, or as retrofit kits for existing toolbars and drills. It meets strict international criteria for disturbance and residue retention.
The science they're based on has won international acclaim and has never been challenged.
The main reason we settled on Crosslot was due to the fact that it allowed us to go into all different types of crop residues, sustain our crop rotation, the ability to grow all the different crops without having to do any type of management of the residues or the soils. With other drills that we had tried, we always had to manipulate or manage our system so it would work for the drill that we had pulled. And with Crosslot, we were able to just go directly into the existing crop without having to do any other type of management or tillage to the soil or residues.
Crosslot no tillage is changing the future of agriculture by replacing the full suite of cultivation equipment with a single pass, state-of-the-art seed drill. Because let's face it, cultivation is outdated, it's expensive, and worse, it's environmentally irresponsible. Crosslot no tillage has many benefits for the sustainability of food production. These benefits are endorsed by governments, by environment protection agencies, and by the FAO. Sadly though, many of these benefits are not borne out in practice, simply because other no-tillage drills simply don't deliver. Crosslot no-tillage changes all of that. When a no-tillage drill can turn unproductive land like this into this in just 12 months, it has to be something special. Crosslot drills have no equal. No-tillage has the potential to make world food production sustainable for the first time in history, with all of the benefits that brings, both socially and economically.
You know, the soil health is vastly improved. just before we changed to no tillage, we were cultivating paddocks up to 13 times, and cloddy soil. This is a soil that the structure breaks down very quickly with cultivation, so what we were doing wasn't sustainable. And now our soil seems beautiful. It's full of worms. And
my assignment with the Agricultural Research Service as a conservation engineer was to develop a system of no-till farming that would reduce or prevent the erosion and water runoff and chemical runoff from these very steep farmlands we have. So we focused on no-till tillage, but to do that we had to find an adequate or a very good no-till drill. So after testing quite a variety of them, we finally focused on the cross-slot technology that had been developed in New Zealand, and after observing that we got very good emergence, very good growth, the bottom line was that we also got a yield boost of about 15% in our winter wheat. So this really set the stage for a nice new system for this country.
For the sake of the planet and all its inhabitants, agriculture needs farmers to partner with a no-tillage system that will not fail. Cross-slot is that system. Join us.